Hey, I Pops. I didn't get to these stories because they're kind of obscure comic, but then a second one happened. I'm like, holy crap, man! Ed Brubaker is having a great week or so here. It is announced that his criminal graphic novel series has been picked up by Amazon, and this comes just a little over a week after he's partnering with Oscar-winning writer Tom McCarthy, who wrote Spotlight, is adapting Pulp, a 2020 graphic novel. So yeah, Ed Brubaker's having a very busy week. So let's talk about this. So let's talk about Pulp first. This is exclusively through Above the Line. Tom McCarthy teaming with Ed Brubaker on Pulp movie based on violent graphic novel. This is the Oscar winner to winning Ed Brubaker adaptation of the latter's 2020 graphic novel Pulp, which McCarthy would also direct, depending on how their script turns out. Above the Line has exclusively learned. So yeah, listen, Ed Brubaker is famously known for the guy who said he got paid more for his cameo in Winter Soldier than he did for the royalties for Marvel making a movie about Winter Soldier. So I'm a little happy for Ed Brubaker. No offense to any of you that hate on Ed Brubaker. I think he's done some decent stuff. I'm not super familiar. I've read both of these. I read Criminal a while ago. I remember when I kind of like thumbed through Pulp and was like, it's interesting. I didn't really get into it in depth yet. But let's talk about Pulp. It is set in the world on the brink. The graphic novel is described as a one-part thriller, one-part meditation on a life of violence and celebration of all things pulp. So 2 out of 3 for me. I'm not a big fan of the quote meditation on a life of violence, but I'm not sure what that means. It centers around Max Winters. He's a pulp writer in the 1930s New York who finds himself drawn into a story much like the tales he's known for telling of an outlaw dispensing justice with a six-shooter in the Wild West. Max finds himself pursued by bank robbers, Nazi spies, enemies from his past. The question is whether he'll be able to do the same. So I'm not quite exactly sure where we're going with some of this, but I do enjoy the creative teams that have been around this. Brubaker and pulp artist Sean Phillips have worked on Criminal, Killer Be Killed, both of which are fantastic, according to this article. 2 Eisner Award winners were also joined by artist Jacob Phillips on Pulp. Let me hop over to the other article, which comes via Deadline. Deadline says, Criminal series based on Ed Brubaker's comic books in works at Amazon Studios. So Amazon is spending some of their bank, right? The exclusive is Amazon Studios is finalizing deals for Criminal, a TV adaptation of Ed Brubaker and artist Sean Phillips' best-selling crime comic book series. Let's see. Details are scarce. It's going to be written by Brubaker. He's going to serve as the executive producer and showrunner, which is very interesting. It's the interlocking universe of crime stories based on his award-winning comic book series. I hear the writer's room for potential, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then we go down a little bit. Let's see here. Yeah. We have this is the actual quote. This is from an interview in 2019 on Deadline. So Deadline is quoting themselves here, basically. Criminal tells the interweaving saga of several generations of family tied together by crimes and murders of the past. And one of the big events in many of these characters' past, which has been referenced to since the very first Criminal story, was the death of Teague Lawless. Before we even meet Teague, we knew he had died when his son was a teenager, but other than the identity of the killer, we have never told the rest of the story. It's just been a ghost haunting the series, as Teague Lawless has become one of the most popular characters in the comic book. Cool. Very cool. It lists off the awards and that kind of thing. But here's the thing I thought about this and why I thought it was interesting. One, these were two... Here's the thing I thought about this and why I thought it was interesting. One, these were two sort of like grounded criminal crime detective type stories, and I just done so a rewatch. I've been doing some rewatch of some older films and really kind of getting into doing some videos on things like Sting or like Chinatown, things like that. And I thought, oh man, and then coincidentally this has been out there. I'm like, oh man, a pulp film hasn't really been, we moved away from some of these genres. We moved away from these type of crime stories and grounded. I mean, True Detective, I think, did a great job in season 1 in particular. Some of the other seasons are kind of trailed off, but season 1 I thought was great. But Ed Brubaker is a great writer. I think he's done some good stuff. I think that these are two interesting concepts, especially for the fact that Amazon is buying the criminal one and also throwing him in as a showrunner, which I think is interesting. I'm not sure I would think that's a great move. I'm not sure if Ed's capacity is showrunner, but maybe that's the way he can maintain control of his property. And we'll see what happens. And then, of course, the Spotlight writer, which I'm not up on Spotlight. I'm not going to pretend to know much about Tom McCarthy, but he's kind of something like he wants to do it as a vanity project so he can be behind the camera. So maybe we're seeing some creatives and some shifts and some genre changes and things like that. Don't know. But as I said, it's been a good week for Ed Brubaker. All right. Tell me what you guys think. Do either of these sort of like entice you or interest you? Would you like me to see? Would you like me to do comic book breakdowns and reviews and stuff on those? Hey, listen, you guys drive the train. You guys tell me where to go. Anyway, thanks so much for spending time with me. And I'm Hobbs.
Yeah. Right.